Hello, I am Sebastian Barbosa and you are watching NostradamusX News. The Middle East clock, which for decades seemed stuck in a countdown to the apocalypse, has suffered a definitive fracture in the last few hours. What we are witnessing is not just another chapter of regional skirmishes, but the systemic crumbling of a power structure that sustained transnational terrorism for nearly half a century. The confirmation of the death of Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, followed by Hezbollah's desperate attack on the port city of Haifa, marks what analysts are already calling the Great Reckoning. In the early hours of this Tuesday, the terrorist group Hezbollah, once the crown jewel of Iranian proxies, fired a barrage of missiles at Haifa. The attack, though it triggered sirens across northern Israel and forced thousands of civilians into shelters, is seen by military experts as a blind act of desperation. With the command chain in Tehran decapitated and its own arsenals decimated by months of surgical Israeli incursions, Hezbollah is attempting to demonstrate a relevance that the battlefield has already denied them. Haifa, a nerve center of coexistence and economy in Israel, has become the symbolic target of a retaliation that no longer possesses a long-term strategy. This strike occurs in a power vacuum. Hours earlier, the world received news of the death of Ali Khamenei, the dictator who ruled Iran with an iron fist and an apocalyptic ideology for 37 years. The confirmation that his wife also succumbed to injuries resulting from the military action only underscores the depth of the blow dealt to the inner core of the Ayatollah's regime. To understand the magnitude of what is happening now, one must look at the board that began to be redrawn on October 7, 2023. On that date, Iran, through Hamas, launched what Khamenei described with a spiritual blessing as a hunt for Jews. However, what followed was a demonstration that Israel and its allies neither forget nor forgive state-sponsored terrorism. Iran's ability to project power beyond its borders has been reduced to rubble. One by one, the pillars of Iranian support have been toppled. Hamas was decimated in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon has been fragmented, and the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria, which for a decade relied on Iranian support to massacre its own population, collapsed, forcing the dictator to seek exile in Russia. Even the Houthi rebels in Yemen, known for their aggression in the Red Sea, remain in dead silence, watching the destruction of their financiers. At the center of this perfect storm is the return of a diplomacy of force coming from Washington. The Donald Trump administration has abandoned the subtleties of the Democratic era, replacing the woke agenda and endless negotiations with a policy of immediate and devastating results. The analysis is clear. Iran believed it could manipulate the American administration as it had done with previous governments, but it encountered an insurmountable obstacle. Trump seems determined to end the problem of a hostile power that sought nuclear weapons to validate a transcendent and dangerous worldview. For the clerics in Tehran, politics is not materialistic, it is a holy war. For the necessary sheriff, as yesterday's article in Revista Oeste aptly defined it, it is a matter of removing tyrants who enslave their own people and threaten global stability. The military efficiency demonstrated in recent weeks has no modern precedent. In less than 2 months, the United States and its allies coordinated the extraction of Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela, a bloodthirsty dictator now being prosecuted on American soil, and the neutralization of the Iranian leadership. This show of force, utilizing the greatest air-naval capability on the planet, including 11 American aircraft carriers and their formidable naval aviation, sent a direct message to Moscow and Beijing. Unlike previous conflicts, Iran now finds itself in absolute diplomatic and military isolation. By firing missiles that hit or threaten countries such as Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Jordan, Tehran committed a fatal strategic error. Regional solidarity, which was already fragile due to tensions between Sunni Arabs and Shia Persians, has completely evaporated. No country in the region will lift a finger to protect the Ayatollah's regime. On the contrary, There is an expectation that neighbors will actively collaborate to ensure that the transition of power in Iran is final. The Iranian people, a nation of 90 million, live under the weight of a government that has murdered more than 30,000 of its own citizens simply for political disagreement. The fall of Khamenei is seen not only as an external military victory, but as the beginning of a potential internal liberation. The speed and effectiveness of American operations serve as a brutal contrast to Russia's failures in Ukraine. While Vladimir Putin resorts to nuclear rhetoric to mask the weakness of his conventional forces in a war that has dragged on for years, the United States has demonstrated that it can dismantle dictatorial regimes in weeks without suffering significant casualties. China, which is closely watching the fate of Taiwan, now needs to recalculate the cost of any military adventure. The demonstration of intelligence and raw power in Washington has made it clear that the global chessboard has once again found its center of gravity in the United States. The attack on Haifa and the fall of Tehran are the final acts of an era of impunity. As in 1972, following the Munich massacre, Israel has shown that the pursuit of justice against terrorism has no expiration date. Ali Khamenei, the man who blessed the horror, is no longer here to see the result of his gambles. NostradamusX News will continue to follow the developments of this transition. The world, though still hearing the sirens in Haifa, breathes the air of a Middle East that for the first time in decades glimpses a horizon without the shadow of the Ayatollahs. The sheriff is in town, and the global cleanup seems to be just beginning. I am Sebastian Barbosa, international correspondent and geopolitical analyst. Our views reflect the search for an objective and deep analysis of contemporary conflicts. Until next time, and don't forget to follow us.